Cassar. Well, welcome to the Justice Plan TV and podcast show, your go-to destination for all things wedding related. I'm Nathan Cassar, your professional wedding MC and host, and today we have a very special guest who knows how to make wedding dreams a reality, Darrin Non, also known as the best Man Civil Marriage Celebrant. Now, Darrin has been creating magic since 2019, conducting nearly 400 ceremonies and counting across New South Wales. With his knack for simplicity and a keen sense of humour, Darrin ensures that every couple's special day is truly unforgettable. Throughout his career, Darrin has encountered a diverse range of weddings, each with its own unique charm. From themed weddings involving Elvis and Jedi Knights to conventional bridal entrances and interactive guest activities, Darrin certainly knows how to infuse creativity and personality into every ceremony. In today's episode, we'll dive right into the secrets behind Darrin's successful ceremonies. We'll explore how his sense of humour can elevate a theme wedding, share examples of unique weddings that have captivated guests, maybe give you some ideas out there, and discuss the importance of maintaining discretion during key moments. Additionally, we'll also address the role of celebrants in introducing creative elements and navigating couples' preferences regarding social media sharing and guest photography. This is going to be quite the episode. So if you're ready to gain insightful expert insights into crafting the perfect wedding ceremony, you're in the right place. Darrin, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hi, Nathan. How are you, buddy?
Oh, living the dream, as I always tell people.
You do, yeah.
It's we work in the most craziest work environment possible. I think what people often only very rarely will point out to me, and I go, yeah, I know, right, is the wedding industry is fascinating because none of us typically will have worked together before in the exact arrangement that that particular wedding comes in. So maybe like you and I have worked together. So yes, we'll encounter each other again, but the photography team will be different and the DJ will be different than the last wedding. And so the venue will be different. So there's never really ever one. And no matter how many, even if you had the whole same amount of vendors, you've still got like a different set of guests and a different couple. So no particular part of our job is ever the same as the last one. Has that sort of ever struck you? And what even if it hasn't, sort of hearing that, how does it make you feel sort of being part of an industry where it's not like you're 9 to 5, you know what to expect every day?
Well, that's obviously one of the big reasons why I got into it, because you're your own boss in that sort of situation. But also, obviously, on the day, the couples are your bosses because you basically you're working for them. But as you said before, every wedding is different. Everyone's got a different story to how they met. And but that's the best thing about it is, everything is different. As you said, the vendors are different, photographers are different, and obviously the guests are different. So I'll turn up at a wedding and you walk in and everyone's sitting there as serious as anything, and you've got to really try to liven them up. So it really depends on the crowd, and even being a comedian or an MC as yourself you've got to work with that, and so you can't just be that's your same self every single time, because it could be a very serious crowd, and depending on the situation with the couple, you can't just be out there and be spontaneous and crazy. Because it might not be that right mood at that time. So everything's different every single time. So that it makes it exciting. So if it was the same every wedding, it'd be boring, wouldn't it? So.
Oh, I totally agree. Absolutely. And obviously a big part of why couples will pick people like yourself and I and many other vendors is because they've established a connection. They can see that there's a vibe. And certainly if that isn't on your metrics, you should definitely write that down right now. A unique vibe connection with your various vendors. But certainly for celebrants in particular and MCs, there's a real personal, emotional element to what we offer. And so, speaking something that you strive to really inject into every wedding that you do, the object being humor, how does yourself personally, but also generally as celebrants, because maybe if a humorous celebrant is something that people have on their check boxes for who they're trying to find, how can humor transform a wedding from, say, something, how can you take it from maybe, say, silly to extravagant or something else in between? What is sort of how you craft that and inject it in a way that resonates with the crowd and really makes it memorable?
Well, firstly, you've got to listen to the couple. So, and the couple's got to really give you their ideas. So, the couples out there, they can't be afraid to say what they want. So, I'll have a lot of couples that first will ask to say, "Have you got a sense of humour? Don't mind me asking? Like, can you be funny?" Like, so we don't. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask that, because if that's what you're looking for, you'll get that idea from talking to them face to face or even over the phone straight away. So they've got to have that expectation first, and they've got to tell you what they want. And as for the ceremony itself, if that's, I always say, well, what sort of ceremony are you after? And you get a bit of a vibe from the couple, and I'll give them ideas as well. But if they're a really serious couple, I won't say, if you looked at doing a theme wedding or something, if they're and had that sort of persona about themselves. So if I can see they've got that real funny side to them, I'll say, why don't you try this? Why don't you do this? Or so yeah, it's but except on the day itself, you've really got to go with the flow. But there's the serious sides of the ceremony that you've got to do the legal parts. Like there's about 3 legal things that have to be done during the ceremony. So you can't get everyone crazy and being silly in certain ways, because you've got to do that. Or if you're going to do it, you say, okay, we're going to be a bit serious now. So, and then you read the monotum, which is the legal term that you have to read, and also they have to read their legal vows out. Now they have to be done properly. So if you put the mood into the couple when they're really going crazy and they're laughing and that sort of stuff, they have to read their legal vows out properly. So you've got to sort of get that, like not being away, like, okay, sorry, just do that again. That's not good enough. So they just have to understand there is a serious side to it, because they're getting legally married by law. So no matter how funny or charismatic the celebrant is, there's that serious side. So yeah, you've got to be funny, but also there is a serious side to it. So you just so don't have a bottle of bourbon before the ceremony
because I think you're supposed to,
but you can't be,
because you've got to be actually of good mind, correct? That's the legally
you have to. You
thing.
can't. If it has happened, I've been to weddings, or even their witnesses have to be basically sober in a way. But obviously, if they're having a drink,
not going to pull the breathalyzer around and be like, oh, sorry, you're 0.06, like
exactly. But if they're you obviously not going to breath test them, but you can just see that it's like the responsible way of drinking. But if they've got like a half a bottle of bourbon in their hand, and you can really see it in them, you've really got to. If it's an hour before, you say, look, mate, you've got to stop that, or you've got to tell them to. You've got to be focused in certain ways, because there is a legal part of it. So
people don't talk about this much. I've had so many conversations with celebrants, and I'm sure I've been aware that this is a thing, and I understand why it's not. We don't harp on about it. It almost seems a little bit implied, but certainly, I think it is an important thing, because I know a lot of people. I certainly have a lot of my couples that feel a bit stressed before. Who doesn't, right? You're about to, say I do to the person you're committing the rest of your life to. It's a big thing. And certainly all the legal parts to it are pretty serious and, very, it sort of sets it all out as well. And so I can completely understand the nerves, but I think it's a really good point, because at the end of the day, it does put your celebrant in a really tough position, having to make that call, because there is a legal obligation on your side as a celebrant, right?
It is. If they're completely legless, well, you can't marry them. Simple as that. Because really, they're not. Are they there by force? And you don't know this. And if they're completely wasted, as we could possibly say, well, then they're not really doing something conscious. So same as a witness, when they're witnessing, like I've had a witness come up, I think it was the bride's father come up, and he was legless, and hey, give me the pen, and it's a complete. I just went, sorry, buddy, he can't sign this. He didn't witness anything. I don't think he knew what happened just 5 minutes ago. So that's something that you've got to be aware of. But you can't just do it you can't just warn the couple on the day. So the couples have to be aware of this, or I make my couples aware prior, or while we're doing discussions, that these are the conditions for your witnesses, and always lastly say they can't be off their faces. So It's time for having a good time, and that's after. But 1 or 2 beers, that's okay. Until a certain limit, and you have to tell the couples that. So just be aware of that. Just don't go crazy before. Yeah, so that's something that couples have to sort of be very aware of, because it is it's a legal ceremony that you're actually conducting. So it's by law. So you wouldn't
Certainly
go into
a good point. Yeah, I mean, look, it's definitely something for people to keep in the back of their heads. But I've not had a lot of experience watching that unfold. So I can confidently say, at least within the weddings I've done, it's never been too much of an issue. So I know people generally keep themselves, ready and raring for that reception afterwards. But still, definitely important to remember, because we do want people to have fun. We want our couples to feel themselves. But it's, you know what? Speaking about feeling themselves, you've, as I said in the intro, you've done an Elvis wedding, you've done Jedi Knights wedding, which I think is amazing. How can you share some examples of sort of these unique weddings that have just completely captivated guests in a way?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, I'll always say to the couples first, as I said, I'll see what they want to do and how they want to do it. I'll give them ideas, and they give me ideas. But one of the ones that I got dressed up like Elvis, they when we were first doing basically interviewing stage, and they were deciding on their celebrant, the couple asked me, would you be willing to dress up like Elvis? And I went, yeah, where do I sign? That sounds really cool. And I could tell they were really just a fun couple straight away. And I said, that sounds amazing. And on this particular day, and they actually hired out a whole property around Windsor, or the Wiseman's Ferry, around that sort of area. And they actually had a camping ground. They had like jumping castles, a petting zoo, their own bar, catering. And it was and they hired out a whole house on the property itself. So straight away, people were relaxed straight away. So that's the best thing about it, is the guests were relaxed. They were in that really relaxed environment. They sent me the Elvis suit prior. They actually said, "Oh, we'll supply the costume." So they sent it, and the costume had a few desirable bits to it, but we got over that. But again, because of that, I asked a couple that, yes, I'm getting dressed up like Elvis, but this isn't about me. I want to make sure that the focus is going to be on you, and that's the most important thing. That I didn't want everyone to focus on me as Elvis. It had to be them. So the good thing was when it happened, I was introduced like, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Vegas, welcome Elvis Presley, and I'm like, so I come down.
That's great.
Had to do a rehearsal of how to do karate chopping and stuff like that. And so I got on stage and went, "Oh, thank you very much." And then I actually sort of said, "Ladies and gentlemen, actually, I'm not Elvis Presley."
What?
And I'm an official marriage celebrant today. I'll be conducting this beautiful couple's wedding. And then we got things started. So we started the actual ceremony itself. But it wasn't just the Elvis thing. It was we started like really cool music. And the bridesmaids, they come out with baskets of beer, and they were basically like handing them out or throwing them out to the crowd. And it was probably around about 100 people, and they were just going wild. And the atmosphere was just electric and fantastic. And the good thing was the groom on the day, he was waiting for his bride, and usually, as we know, the groom or the partner, whoever is going to be standing there at the front with the celebrant, is nervous as anything. This guy was just relaxed, because already the mood was just fantastic. So all the bridesmaids come out. It was fantastic. And then we did a big announcement for the bride. She come down and basically just dressed not in a big gown, just a really a casual sort of a dress, and just danced and just pointed at him. And it was just amazing. And just people were just going, wow. It was like being at a rock concert. And,
that's amazing, because it's about them, right? It's what they wanted. It was execute. You set it up at the start. You obviously made them feel comfortable that it was possible, even with, as we just mentioned, some of those legal not restrictions, just guidelines that they have to follow within. And you still said no, like you helped to curate their feelings that it was still possible. They could still have that moment captured in time, that it was them completely. But, it wasn't you getting out and then saying, oh, I'm just going to do an impromptu, karaoke for like 5 minutes before I then maybe try to overdo the puns or the voice too much and things like that. I think it's a great example, as you describe, of a beautifully set theme wedding that has been curated by a professional such as yourself. You've allowed creativity to flow within just certain guidelines that need to be adhered to. Otherwise, it's a very expensive party. And now everyone, forevermore gets to talk about it. You have this great experience as a celebrant. They have a great experience as a married couple. And people, often mention it. I'm sure they're going to be talking about that wedding for years to come. And it just shows the versatility that actually can exist beyond the regular weddings that people do.
Well, you'll always remember it. And I always say to couples that, there's 3 or 4 occasions in your life that you always remember. And it's a cliche. Like, you always remember your wedding day. You remember when your children were born, you're probably your first love and things like that, or when you graduate from school. But this is a day that, because sometimes a lot of couples will go into it, just go, oh, we're just getting married and, we just want to save money and we want to do this. But you can do something. You don't have to have a massive expense to do something memorable and to always remember, because, again, this is a day that for you to remember, you and your partner to remember. So don't always think it's got to be like you've got to play with the crowd or your guests, because it's your day. And I always say that this is your day. It's not my day. I mean, I'll make it special for you, but I'm the Morgan Freeman on the day. So I'll be saying things, but people aren't focusing on me. They're focusing on you. So they're hearing me, but they're not listening. But they're listening to me, but they're not seeing me. So that's the biggest thing about it, is to have that day that is just memorable. Because, again, but if you have your guests that also talk about it, like you'll go to work on Monday morning and they'll go, what did you do on the weekend? Like, oh, I went to a wedding. Oh, yeah, the bride was beautiful. Or they were, the couple were, they were perfect for each other. Oh, yeah. And I had a few beers afterwards and I can't remember how I got home. But if you had this great theme wedding or something memorable like this, they'll just go, you'll actually say before it, like, guess what I did on the weekend? I went to this great wedding and it was just awesome. It blew my mind. Yeah. And then that gives them ideas to have something later on for their wedding, or give their friends ideas. So, I mean, yeah, why not do it? I mean, we're not in the world now where you can either get married in a church or a registry office. You can do anything anywhere. You can get married in your own toilet if you want to. You can do anything you want to do. So just use it and abuse it. And that's what I say to couples. But some just don't. They just want the traditional thing. So that's fair enough.
And that's okay. That is okay.
I mean, I'd say about 90% of my weddings are just, the traditional thing, which is great. And they're just as nice. But don't be afraid to, spread your wings and do something different, because you'll always remember it. And you look at the photos on the day and it just makes you laugh, and it's do something different. Why not?
Oh, 100%, absolutely. I mean, I stake my own brand on that too. So it's I'm a champ. I'd love to champion those kind of ideas of, if something really sticks out as something that is going to be you and exemplify the couple that you are, but it's perhaps a little against the grain, so to speak, or unusual, just do it. Just do it and allow us to help you. You mentioned photos just then. And I think photos are a really interesting thing, because there's a lot of interesting conversation online amongst celebrants about how much or how little presence a celebrant specifically should physically be in photos during a ceremony. And I know that it's an interesting, I'm sure if you look online, you can see a lot of other podcasts talk about this as well. There's a lot of inner chatter in the industry, sort of a behind the curtain look to tell you here right now. There's a lot of controversy about this, but I know that you have a take on this. So my question to you is how important is it for a celebrant, in your opinion, to maintain discretion and avoid being in those photos at key moments?
Again, as a couple, always ask that question. I get a lot of couples will ask me that they'll send me examples of photos where they'll have the final kiss and there's this head there that's looking like some sort of weirdo going, oh yeah, give it to her. And honestly, it looks like there's some sort of like, who's that? Oh, that's a celebrant. What's he doing there? So You've got to be conscious enough to get out of that. And also when the couple is saying their private or their personal vows or personal words to each other, this is that private moment between the couple. So, and they don't want the celebrant to be there looking at them while they're telling each other. Because my first few weddings I had the groom was basically saying his words, how much he loved her or him or whatever, and he was basically looking directly at me because I was there. And this is like one or two weddings down, and I went, I shouldn't be here, because he's looking at me. I'm going, look at her, or look at him,
please.
And so after that I went, so I just go, I give them the microphone, or I give them the floor, and I just go to the side, because that way you're not the focus, or you're not anywhere in them photos or the video or whatever. So don't be afraid to ask that question. But obviously that final kiss is, ask the question. Don't be afraid to say, can you get out of the way, or can you stand over here or this angle, or we're going to Z you out of the photos. Who cares if you do? I mean, I said, I don't wear polka dot suits. I don't do any of that. And if you are, have a celebrant who is going to wear like a bright gold suit or whatever, and it just, it's going to be they're going to be a focus. They're going to be the focus. So always ask that question that, what do you do about the photos? Don't be afraid to ask all these questions, because it's not about the celebrant. It's about the couple. That's the main thing. And the wedding party. Get out of the way.
I think it's a great point. A great point you keep raising that I absolutely resonate. Ask questions. Ask questions. Set a standard. Ask questions, because it's a great way to vet the countless vendors you're going to be encountering and inquiring with. And certainly once you have locked someone in that is your vibe and fit, it's still then important to continue to ask those questions based upon your initial impressions of what they can offer and not offer. So you're right. It's the worst thing, I think, I'm speaking on behalf of all vendors, when whatever you do out there, it's the worst thing when you get this, hypothetically getting this feedback, which is, I wish we'd done this, or wish this didn't happen. And it's like, I had no idea. And that would have just been easily solved by a 5-minute conversation. So I've got one more question for you, and I've got a couple of rapid fires, and we'll wrap up for today. And this, again, going back to this photography theme, but more specifically around social media, because obviously, as vendors, I'm not going to lie, before I started in this industry, I don't know about yourself, Darrin, but when I started in this industry, my personal Instagram had 2 photos. It still today has 2 photos. So I don't care for it, but I do love my business one, because it allows me to express my personality and reach new people. So I do generally love to express myself like that. But there's a big there's a lot of conversation as well about how social media shares go on between vendors and the couples, and then how much guests, for instance, there's a lot of unplugged weddings happening right now. It's a very in vogue thing. Big signs coming in, and this is all great stuff, setting standards, big signs saying unplugged. I'm sure you've said many times recently they would like all your phones to be switched off or put into silent. We don't want to see phones. We just want to see smiles. And so how do you navigate that, and how do you advise? Obviously, you bring a lot of direction into that by verbalizing on the day, but then how do you also navigate that when couples out there are worried about perhaps those photos going online before they've even had a chance to even enjoy the first professional photography?
Ask the question. I mean, obviously, a couple has to ask a question, but the thing is I'll obviously it's something that it's sometimes the couples won't think about that. Then I actually had one recently that they didn't actually bring that up, and now I always ask the couples now about the social media, and I mean, because obviously, as you know, people will be just sitting there while they're going, I'm at a wedding. How's this like? That there's some people that sit on the toilet and say, this is what I'm doing now, about their own business. So, and you don't want that. This is your day. So really, you don't want people putting up posts about where they are, because this is your moment. But it's a good idea to put signs up as well, because I might do a briefing like, please have, obviously your phone's on silent. Also, the couple has requested that nothing to be put on social media until after. And I'll just make a joke about it. I'll say, the photographer here, he'll only charge you a few bucks for a photo. So, don't worry about that. So you could put a light side to it. Otherwise, people just look at you and go, this guy's an arsehole. So
And they've only just met you, right? So,
exactly.
they're like, okay, thanks, mate.
He's pretty strict, and they'll get a different impression of you straight away. And then again, that you're not really relaxed, or the crowd isn't relaxed. So, so you make sure you do it in a nice way, and because obviously that you're going to have like the groom will be there, or one of the partners will be there at the front. And they're going to be too nervous to even worry about what you said, and they're not going to remember that because they're sweating bullets at that time. So you've got to be relied upon to do all this for this couple because they can't do it. So, but yeah, don't. It's just one of them things. It's a tricky situation, but again, some don't mind things being put on social media. So again, it's something that don't be afraid to ask the celebrant to do this, and do it later. I mean, it's but some people want their faces out there straight away. They want to be advertised, so why not?
I've had a couple of weddings actually to add to that as some strategies that may resonate with the audience. I've had, and then even myself, I've played celebrant once. They were married like months before the date, so I was just playing the role of it, and it's a lot of fun to say, actually, these are the legal part, but I'm not actually going to say that right now. It's great, but one thing that they really wanted that I recommended to them was, because I also wrote about this and I'd seen other celebrants do it. I thought it was amazing. Such a great idea. Is that there's another way to go about this where you still have the unplugged part, but what you do is at the very beginning, you say, right, I know how much you're all desperate to take a photo of this. So what we'll do is I'll give you 2 minutes. I'm going to put a timer on. I'm going to put some music on, and it's literally going to stop at 2 minutes. And you can take as many photos as you want. They'll pose in all sorts of different directions. But the moment that 2 minutes is up and I'm back on the stage, we are getting right to it. That phone goes away and you're not allowed to post it afterwards. I thought that was a really great job, and it worked well, the one I did it as well, because it got sort of that jitter out of the audience. There's some people that are just, it's their personality, and there's fine, people are different, but this is like they had to, it was like, oh, I've got to take the photo. And so
have a selfie. Do the selfie thing. Do the selfie as well.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Whatever format they needed, but I just felt that it really cleared the air. We are running rapidly out of time. So speaking of rapid, I want to ask you a very few quick questions before we get out, and we'll find out how people can connect with you. First up, number one, what is your number one, just quick, whatever comes to mind, top trend that you're seeing coming through in 24?
A lot more sort of micro weddings, which is basically probably around the 10 to 30 guests sort of things. That's the micro weddings. It just something. Everyone's just saying we just want something simple, because I think the days of the 200-300 guests. Because again, years ago you do that, and you probably never see half these guests again in your life, unless you get a present from them. But it's simplified. We just want something simple and easy, and we just want to get married. And that's the main thing. So obviously it's called. I think it's a new sort of trend. It's called a micro wedding or elopement. Elopement or the micro wedding. So just a lot smaller. So the days of the big weddings, the huge big things like my big fat Greek wedding sort of thing. Them sort of days are they're sort of starting to diminish. They're still around, but not as many.
Yeah, no, very true. Definitely seen that myself. Number two, do you prefer indoor or outdoor weddings?
Doesn't worry me. It's depending on the weather. I mean, it doesn't. And again, that could change. So a lot of people, and again, there's something the couples have to always have is a plan B. And I always ask them, have a plan B in place, because they might have an outdoor wedding. Have a plan B, because it'll be raining or scheduled for rain. And I'll say, have you got a plan B? They go, no. And this is at a venue. A lot of venues will already have that. A lot of the they will have that in place, but. Make sure about that and have it in place by that morning. If it's looking at rain, move it or whatever. But it doesn't really worry me. I mean, it's depending on obviously the sound systems, that sort of stuff, and how many guests you have. So it doesn't really worry me. Again, if it's in the middle of the summer, that could be a problem, because not that I wear makeup, but that could run.
You could though if you wanted.
Exactly.
Well, Darrin, we have ran out of time. All I want to, I'll leave our guests with is how they can connect with you. So where on the interwebs can they find you?
At bestmancelebrant.com.au, or you find me on Facebook, or just Google Best Man Civil Marriage Celebrant, and you'll find a little bit about me, reviews and photos and things like that. And have a look at my website and it explains all the little things, or give me a call, 0411 398 395, and hopefully I can be the best man for your special day. You like that?
I love it. Absolutely. Well, I hope they do. And it was a pleasure working with you last year. And I hope that we continue to collaborate and work together again. You brought a lot of energy and sprightliness to the day that was really helpful for me to carry that into the evening. So I can certainly attest to that myself. Darrin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Nathan. It's been a pleasure. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Just As Planned Wedding Podcast. Please like and subscribe to let me know that you want more videos just like this one. And of course, please follow us on our socials at Just As Planned Wedding on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more expert insights to help your wedding go just as planned.